I cried or if I laughed. I just remember I want my money back. I can't remember if it sucked or if I had a blast. All I know is at the end of the show, when the credits rolled, it said Filmtopiacast 3000.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Filmtopiacast 3000. I'm your host, Greg McIver, and with me is my venerable co-host...
I'm venerable, Nicky Boom-Boom.
Nicky Boom-Boom. On today's episode, we are going to talk about movies for a change of pace. Nick, you saw something in theaters recently that you wanted to talk about, didn't you?
I did see something. It was a man, and he had a claw, a hook claw, and he was dragging a child behind. No,
oh God.
Well, I did see that too, but I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about the movie I watched.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I saw a movie that I think I've been talking up for a few weeks here.
Yeah.
Called Seven Psychopaths.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the second film, second full-length film that is written and directed by my favorite playwright, whose name is Martin McDonagh. If you have not seen it or read it, you should pick up or somehow find a production of a play called The Pillow Man.
Just pick up the production, the whole theater.
No, that's why I said try to find it or pick up the script.
Moving along.
Anyway, fantastic play, and
yeah, it's pretty good. I like it a lot.
I have some bragging rights because I saw the original production of it, starring the great Jim Broadbent.
Yeah,
but
look at you, I'm off to play the grand piano.
That's right.
Yes.
So anyway, Seven Psychopaths is kind of in the vein of his other stories in that there's a lot of dark comedy happening, and within that dark comedy, kind of likened to Tarantino in some ways, within like all the horrible, brutal crime things happening,
right,
there are some moments of like truth and beauty as well.
Okay.
And the movie, actually, it was different than what I thought it would be in a certain way, because it ends up kind of being a deconstruction of that genre of movie and a meditation on it. For example, once again, the film is written and directed by a man named Martin McDonagh, who's an Irishman.
Right.
And a writer. And Colin Farrell plays Marty, an Irish screenwriter.
Marty. Aw, not adorable.
Who is struggling with trying to pen his screenplay Seven Psychopaths, which is going to be his next big thing.
So this movie is in no way autobiographical in any form.
Right.
Okay, cool.
So as you can kind of gather from the trailer, if you've seen it, his best friend is played by Sam Rockwell, who, along with Chris Walken, the two of them, they have an odd way of earning income. They will kidnap dogs.
Oh.
And then when, they won't mistreat them. They actually love the dogs very much and take care of them.
Aw.
They find the reward poster and then they deliver the dog back and get the reward money. And that's how they make their extra bread.
Interesting.
And this is very much like the plot to one of his other plays.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening is Woody Harrelson plays a big scary gangster. They kidnap his dog, and he goes on a rampage to get his dog back because he loves his dog so much. Seeing a large scary man break down and cry about their pet is hilarious and kind of oddly heartwarming. It's like, oh, he really loves that Shih Tzu. And this is actually, it's kind of lifted from a play called The Lieutenant of Inishmore, which Martin McDonagh also penned, wherein in that one, it was an IRA member who was so far extreme that the IRA had almost kind of said, like, you do whatever you want. We don't really want anything to do with you. And his cat, Wee Thomas, he leaves in the care of Wee Thomas. He leaves him in the care of some of his family members, and the cat dies, and he flips out and wants to get the people responsible to pay or take responsibility in some way, even though I believe in the play there is relatives as well. So anyway, it is a little bit of recycled plot in that aspect, but then from there the the movie rather kind of spirals into this weird deconstruction direction wherein he'll be talking, him and Walken and Sam Rockwell will be talking about different things about how the movie, because they're helping him kind of write the movie at one point.
Right.
Because he's really stuck. He doesn't really know what he wants to do. Like, he's talking about the psychopaths. He wants to be the 7 psychopaths. And he's kind of got nothing. He's like, well, there'll be a Buddhist psychopath, and then he crosses that out, and he's like, no, an Amish psychopath.
An Amish.
Because he's like, well, I don't want this to be just like another crime movie. I want it to be kind of transcendent and life affirming. And his friend Sam Rockwell is like, no, you need a big shootout in the desert. That's what you got to do. And he's just all about the like very manly, ramped up testosterone aspects of it. Okay. So anyway, as they're talking about something like, oh no, I don't want to go in that direction. I would really just like it if the 3 characters that we've got right now just went out to the desert by the campfire and had like a montage where they really connect. And then that's exactly what happens. They're escaping from the bad guys and they drive out to the desert, and by the campfire they kind of talk about story ideas.
There's like a never-ending story aspect.
A little, yeah. It's like the never-ending story meets like, I don't want to say Pulp Fiction, but a movie like that, like a Tarantino type of movie or a Martin McDonagh type of movie. If you haven't seen it, he also directed and wrote a movie called In Bruges, also starring Colin Farrell, which is very much more in that just like it's a crime story type of story. Which it also has his kind of signature dark humor as well. So
yeah, I've never seen either movie. I would really like to. I know The Pillow Man. I went and saw a production that you were involved with in Orlando, and I really like that show. I like his sense of humor is very warped, and any man that can write a play about a crazed Irish, freedom fighter with a kitty named Wee Thomas is worth the price of admission alone. So
indeed.
So you liked 7 Psychopaths?
I liked it very much. It was different than what I thought it was going to be, but there's a great cast. Tom Waits is in it, and he's fantastic.
Okay, cool.
Woody Harrelson's great. Our buddy Zelko Ivanek. I think that's how you say his name.
Zelko Ivanek?
I don't know. That's what I'm going with.
Let's go with that. Yeah, that was the title of our last episode because we couldn't really remember how to pronounce his name. But yeah, our buddy Zelko.
Our buddy Zelko, we think.
There's
a J in there.
Yes, it's probably silent.
Yeah.
Anywho, yes, he's in there. So a lot of good people in this movie.
A lot of good performances, really fun. Kind of misleading posters because they list the 2 lovely ladies of the film. They make them seem like they're going to be 2 of the psychopaths.
Right.
Really, they're like in a scene apiece. They're like hardly in the movie. Abby Cornish and Olga, I think Kuryenko. She was a Bond girl in Quantum of Solace.
Ah, the Solace of Quantum.
Yeah, the something of Boris.
You should really check that video out on YouTube if you haven't seen it. It's a wonderful parody of the Quantum of Solace.
It was their pitch song for when the title of the movie came out.
The thingy of thingy.
So anyway, 7 Psychopaths was very good. Check it out.
Awesome. The 2 of us actually saw a movie recently.
We tag teamed a movie.
We did tag team a movie, absolutely. It's something we had been seeing previously. We're looking forward to, a nice scary movie gearing us up for the Halloween season.
Tis the season for seeing some scary movies.
Tis the season, and on our next episode, we're gonna have like just a full out scary movie episode, dedicated to just, talk about nothing but horror movies. So we're going to give you a little taste of that this episode. We're going to talk about the movie that we just recently saw, which was Sinister, starring the great and powerful Ethan Hawke. And
he'd destroy us all if he wanted.
Oh, absolutely, with just a glance, a fleeting glance.
With his acting.
Oh God, no. I like Ethan Hawke. He does get an opportunity to choose some scenery in this, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a few moments. Sinister was an interesting movie. It had a lot of good moments.
It had, I think we're in agreement that it had more potential in some directions than it chose to explore.
Yes, it kind of tripped at the finish line.
Yeah.
It was going in an interesting direction and had, like you said, a lot of opportunities, but it just didn't capitalize on many of them.
It's not a bad movie though.
No, not a bad movie. Not a bad movie. Again, there were some very entertaining parts. There's some very genuinely scary moments. You know, it didn't just rely entirely on jump scares, although there are quite a few. But
now, if you haven't seen the trailer or caught a synopsis, the basic deal of the movie is this: Ethan Hawke plays a true crime writer who runs afoul of the police wherever he moves his family because his job is basically to expose them as not doing their jobs properly.
Right.
He's trying to solve crimes that have gone unsolved.
Mm-hmm.
And so the cops, kind of wherever him and his family go, don't take too kindly to him.
No.
You know, they're always having to move based on what new case he's investigating, so his kids are really sick of it. And he has moved to the actual house where
a family was hung.
Yeah, they seem to have. Well, it's. I guess they haven't taken their lives. They were hung.
Right. Yeah. They were killed, death by hanging.
Right.
And yeah, he moves into the actual house where that crime occurred
without telling his family that they're. In fact, his wife even says early on, like, "We're not moving 2 doors down from where the incident took place, or something, are we?" And he's like, "No, I promise you, we're not."
Wow.
Which is true. He was being truthful.
Real stand-up guy there. Yeah. So yes, he was telling the truth in that instance. So yeah, they move into the house, and he discovers a box full of Super 8 film in the attic, and he starts to watch them. And they're films of other families that have run afoul of gruesome deaths.
Right, and they all seem to be connected by this one face or an image. That,
there's an image of a creature, a demon of some sort, which we later find out is called Bagul.
Right, who's a pagan deity in the movie.
A pagan deity in the movie.
Not a real pagan deity.
Not a real one, no. We looked it up, and sadly we found out that he doesn't actually exist. No. But and his whole dealio is that he likes to snack on the souls of children.
Bagul, the eater of children.
Bagul, the eater of children, and he can apparently he can move through images, like any kind of picture or a video of him serves as sort of a portal into his world, or him being able to come into our world, which very interesting concept. They didn't really do a whole lot with it. But,
no, they didn't.
But a lot of the found footage, like the Super 8 stuff, was very well done.
To me, that was the highlight of the movie, was the scenes where he's actually sitting there watching what happened to these other families.
Right.
The atmosphere they create with the found footage is very, very good.
Absolutely.
This is kind of a weird compliment to give, but whoever did the sound design for the movie, like total badass. Like they really, each Super 8 segment had its own distinct, but kind of similar looping, spooky music to accompany it.
No, it was very good. No, yeah. Every piece of film was very distinct.
And all of the Super 8 footage is of it, at first the family like laughing and playing and having a good time, and then being ritually slaughtered all together as a unit.
Right. Pretty terrifying stuff. And again, the movie doesn't just rely on jump scares, although there are quite a few.
It's getting a lot of flack for how much jump scares it has, and
it does have some, but I think it also relies on some good atmospheric, type horror as well, not just the jump scares. So yeah, there's some interesting things going on with the movie, some interesting directions you could take the movie in. Again, it doesn't capitalize on them, unfortunately. The most terrifying part or thing about the movie is probably Mr. Ethan Hawke himself, and the awful sweater that he wears throughout the entire movie. He's just a whiskey-drinking writer that wears bad sweaters and falls through attics.
Yeah, he's sustained by whiskey, coffee, and his own ego, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah, that's what he's got.
And I'm not just talking about Mr. Hawke. I'm talking about the character.
Yes,
the character's such a jerk.
He's a little bit of a jerk. I mean, I think there's some sympathy to him, but
no, there is. But I mean, one big plot point of the movie is that he had great success with a book called Kentucky Blood.
Yes.
Which was his debut true crime book. And then since then, the last 2 or 3 that he's knocked out have not been so good, and there's been pressure on his character to,
write the next great one,
Well, either that or his wife, I think, would rather that he just give it up and like teach at a college or something like that, which does seem to be an option that he just doesn't want to take. Yeah. He wants his next big hit, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a couple opportunities early on in the story where you think, all right, well, this is his chance to like walk away from all this. And he's seeing that he's getting in too deep, and he chooses to plunge straight ahead. So I guess it makes it not. I mean, it's still of course horrible. Well, I don't want to say like, I don't know.
Well, it all culminates into a huge argument that he and his wife have when she does finally realize that they are in fact living in the house with the murders.
Yeah.
You pointed out something very interesting about that.
To me, his character in this movie, if you're familiar with the Aqua Teen Hunger Force at all, he reminded me of Master Shake in that he's just so blatantly, like, arrogantly, blindly pursuing his own thing without any regard for the consequences or and with total indignation. Like,
oh, absolutely.
His wife calls him on it, like, don't tell me we're living in the house. No, we're living in the... Well, oh, no, what was it?
It's like,
don't tell me that the murders took place in the house. Oh, no, the murders didn't take place in the house. Oh, good. They took place in the backyard. Our daughter plays out there. So what?
I am a good father. I raise my children, and you'll regret that you did this.
I think it's all the shouting, too, probably.
It's a lot of
indignant
shouting that gets to very high-pitched ways. He's just like, all right, leave me alone, you know, which would definitely lend to a Master Shake vibe. So I thought that was very funny when you pointed that out, and I would have to agree to an extent. Again, I'm not criticizing Mr. Hawke. He's a fine actor, and no,
he does a good job.
He commits. You know,
he definitely commits to this movie.
It's just, you know, some of it's it just gets a little funny, just how much he commits. You know,
which I don't think is on him.
I think it's the writing, the character and such. Another standout thing about the movie we should mention is Ziggy from the second season of The Wire.
Yeah, also doing a very fine performance as a deputy that's kind of helping out our main character.
Yeah,
here.
Deputy So-and-so is what he's known as throughout most of the movie.
Yeah, if you watch The Wire, there's like 2 or 3 characters who you just smack your head every time they're on screen.
Right.
They're about to do something horribly stupid.
Exactly.
And the king of that is a character from the second season called Ziggy.
Yes, Ziggy is the ultimate screw-up.
Yeah.
It's funny to watch sometimes. It's very painful to watch other times. You do just kind of want to reach into the screen and throttle him a bit.
Which Bagul maybe could do.
Which Bagul could possibly do. You know, next time I'm watching The Wire, I'll summon Bagul to take care of that for me.
Oh, Bagul would be all over season 4 because he's the eater of children.
Oh, God. Oh, poor kids. Yeah, no, you would definitely dig that. It's a very fine performance from Mr. Ziggy. It's very quirky. It's very funny, which sort of... takes the weight off of the movie a little bit, you know, gives you a chance to breathe a little bit when it's not jump scaring you to death, right. And, you know, creating interesting atmospheres. A particular moment I like where, you know, Ethan Hawke's just kind of freaking out and, like, Ziggy's just kind of like, for the most part throughout this conversation, he's been trying to calm him down and act rational.
Ethan Hawke has been... woken up like 3 nights in a row by strange things in the house.
Basically, 90% of the movie is him waking up and hearing the projector being turned on by something.
And then stalking his hallways with a bat.
Yeah, a bat or a knife or a bottle of whiskey. And so, yeah, he's understandably freaked out at this point and you know, very tired, and he's trying to keep it together. And Mr. Officer Ziggy is trying to you know, give him some advice and calm him down, and Ethan Hawke just very sheepishly is just like, you don't really believe any of this supernatural stuff, and Ziggy just comes back with, are you kidding me? I believe in all of this stuff. I would never live in this house, you know, and Ethan Hawke just has this horrified reaction on his face, like, oh. So very, very fine performance from Mr. Ziggy. Wish we could remember his actual name.
I don't think I ever knew it, so I don't feel bad.
Yeah, I read in an article, actually, that he has been cast in the remake of Old Boy.
Who's he going to be?
He's playing a doctor, apparently, that works with the main female character in the movie. I don't remember the original one too much, so I don't know if that character even existed. Because Old Boy is based off of a manga as well, so I think
that's true.
The movie adaptation possibly left some things. I know for a fact that left a lot of things out, but The original actor that they got for Old Boy, who's playing the Doctor, dropped out, and they've brought Ziggy into the fold. So
if you guys are unfamiliar with Old Boy is a very fine Korean film. It's the middle part of the Revenge trilogy, by
Park Woo-chan?
Park Woo-chan, Chan-wook Park.
Chan-wook Park?
I'm.
It's not the fact that we don't remember his name.
It's I don't know the proper order in Korean that you would say his name.
Exactly.
I think it's Chan-wook Park because Park is usually
okay.
a last name.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go with Chan-wook Park, but that might be incorrect.
Okay. Well, Chan-wook Park, the Revenge trilogy.
It's not a trilogy in the narrative sense. You don't have to watch one movie before the other. The other movies are called Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Sympathy for Lady Vengeance.
Right.
It's just a thematic trilogy.
It's a thematic trilogy, although he has gone on record and other people have said, like, if you look really closely, like with like a microscope, you can find tiny little things that connect them. But, but to the point where they're so minuscule that it's like they might as well not even have them. But
you don't need to watch them,
no.
in sequence anyway.
No. Nick is correct. It is more thematic than anything else.
Yeah, they're all just about revenge, and Old Boy, I think, is the finest of them,
right?
And certainly the most famous of them. They're doing an American remake of it, which is usually something I cringe at, and I think I did initially cringe at that in this case too. But it sounds like it might be in good hands because it's
Mr. Spike Lee is doing it.
Spike Lee is directing it, and it's Josh Brolin still, right?
It's Josh Brolin as the main guy, yeah.
Which I think is a really great piece of casting. If you've seen the original, and if you stack that up against his performance in, say, like No Country for Old Men,
right?
Oh man, I could definitely see him playing that role.
Yeah, good casting there, and Mr. Shartle Copley, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The gentleman from District 9 that eventually gets transformed into the alien. He's playing the villain of the piece. We're not going to go into too much details about Old Boy because there are some very shocking elements to the story.
I think it's in my top 10 of like most disturbing movies, and not because it's like splatter gore fest. It's not that. It's more like for me, it's like a movie has to be psychologically disturbing to be truly disturbing.
Right.
Which is why Itchy the Killer is still like #1 spot for me of all time.
Oh, but there's so many nice, lovable characters in that movie.
Yeah, sure there are.
Okay, Itchy the Killer is a movie where there's nobody with any redemption whatsoever.
Pretty much, yeah.
But Old Boy is a beautiful film. Yes, hopefully it is in good hands with Mr. Spike Lee. It's funny, I think one of the reasons why you cringed when you first heard they were doing the remake, aside from the fact that, it's another American remake of an Asian movie, which doesn't normally go very well, is the fact that at one point Spielberg was rumored to be attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
And, I love Steven Spielberg. He's a fantastic filmmaker.
Old Boy's not really his bag.
Not really his bag. Don't know how he would handle that. But we'll see what Mr. Spike Lee has in store for us in regards to Old Boy. Were we talking about a horror movie named Sinister?
We were. Let's jump back on that quickly here.
Again, it was a decent movie with some good visuals and,
really haunting opening.
Yes.
It opens just concentrated on one of the Super 8 pieces of footage, which you must see it like 10 times.
Yeah, you see it a lot throughout the movie. Without giving anything away in regards to Sinister, one of the main problems with it is I think Hollywood's advertising scheme for the movie has given away some key plot points, which you'll discover very quickly as you're watching the movie. So
you won't be surprised too much.
No, you won't be
by the way things play out.
No, you won't be surprised too much, unfortunately. The movie does trip at the finish line, but beforehand, though, it is a pretty enjoyable ride. So it's not the worst way you can spend 2 hours out of your day if you're looking for something to do. So
hour 40 minutes or whatever it was.
Something like that. So it's worth checking out. It's worth checking out. I give it a C+.
I give it. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah,
B- C+.
Yeah,
I think we discussed briefly on the way back, like, I think I would give it a different rating as a horror movie than I would as a regular movie.
Right.
Which might be slightly unfair to horror movies, but it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about after the movie as well that horror movies are very difficult movies to make in the fact that you are trying to scare an audience, so you spend a lot of your time figuring out within the movie, how am I going to scare the audience now? And hopefully, if you're a filmmaker worth your salt, you will want to do that through means other than just jump scares.
Yeah.
So you're concentrating on that and building atmosphere. At the same time, though, you do have to remember you're making a movie and you are telling an overall story. And I think with a lot of horror movies, they get distracted by that. They concentrate so much on, oh, what's going to scare the audience next? They forget to make the characters interesting or even the story interesting. Or you could even go in the opposite direction with some movies that I've seen where they concentrate a little too much on the setup and a little too much on the character, and then the scares are a bit few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, horror movies are a little bit difficult to make.
And in that regard, I feel like this was set up well. It had some there was like real motivation behind some of the character actions. Like just as an example, when I read some early reviews when I was deciding if I wanted to see it or not, one of the things that they were slamming it about was like, oh, it takes every horror movie cliche and just throws it in there. Like, why is he poking around in the attic? Why would he be poking around in a dark attic like that? And then I'm watching the opening of the movie, and I'm like, okay, did you catch the part where he's, like, investigating the house because a murder took place there and he's trying to solve it?
Yeah.
There's a reason he's poking around in the attic like a jackass, not just because he's a jackass that likes to poke around in dark attics.
Or you could even go simpler than that. They are moving into a house. Yeah. Sometimes people like to store stuff in their attic when they move into a place where they have a lot of extra things that they don't know what to do with. So there are some cliches in the movie, like I think the biggest one for me is the fact that, again, 90% of the movie is him waking up at night to the sound of the projector being switched on.
Yeah.
I guess my one question with those series of scenes is, you just don't believe in flicking on a light, do you, huh?
Yeah.
He likes to wander the house dark after having usually a half a bottle of whiskey and then passing out in his stupid sweater that he wears throughout the entire movie. He then likes to stumble around.
You hate that sweater. You hate it so much.
It's in every scene, and he looks goofy in it. I'm
sorry. The sweater
sorry.
is Bagul.
The sweater is Bagul. I'm sorry. We just spoiled the movie for you. No, I'm sorry. It's in every freaking scene, even when he's inside, for God's sakes. Don't they have central heating? Anyway, I don't know. Little things. But I thought it was a stupid sweater, and he drinks a lot of scotch or whiskey.
And coffee.
Rather.
There was a lot of coffee porn in the movie. It zooms in on the beans being ground up and the coffee being poured into the mug.
Didn't you get coffee immediately after the movie?
No, I got tea.
Oh, okay.
But close enough. It put my brain in that space, I suppose.
Fair enough. So, again, Sinister. Certainly not the worst thing you're ever going to see. Not a bad way to kill a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So, as we're wrapping this episode up, Nick and I are going to talk each about a movie that we've seen on Netflix within the scary movie genre that we would recommend. Again, in teasing our upcoming episode, which is all going to be about scary movies, this episode has only been about 85% about scary movies. The next one's going to be 100% about scary movies, so you just got to bear with us. We got a plan here.
We got to build up your dependency before we throw all the scary at you.
Exactly.
Or else it would be too spooky.
Oh, yeah, indeed. So, Nick, what is something that you've seen recently, whether it be on Netflix or something that you've bought from the DVD store, in the scary movie genre that you would recommend?
Let's see. I got a movie off of Netflix called, and you can't get it on the Instant Watch, but I ordered the disc, and it's called The Descent.
Okay.
Which I would have to go ahead and say is probably the best horror movie I've seen in a little while.
Really?
In a little while, yeah.
Better than Frozen?
So Frozen is a terrible movie.
Yeah, but getting back to this.
But not to get sidetracked, let's talk about a good movie for a moment. The Descent is, I don't know. Whenever you can see a horror movie that kind of breaks the typical mold of like where it's set, for example. Like this had a very interesting setting and a very interesting premise. The start of the movie is this woman, I believe her character name was Sarah, pretty blonde woman, and her friends, they get together at least once a year. Seems like maybe even more than that, and they go on vacations, but they're all very adventurous, outdoorsy people.
Okay.
Particularly kind of the alpha girl of the group is a very pretty Asian woman named Juno.
Juno?
Her name is Juno.
Ding, 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 indie music and guys jogging along.
She doesn't get pregnant or talk about pork swords or anything like that.
Oh, that's a shame.
Or Sonic Youth and how much she hates them.
Fuck her. Sorry. Oh, goodness. Another F-bomb drop. Anyway, continue.
Another quarter for the swear jar.
Indeed.
But, so, they go on these retreats where, when the movie opens, they're going kayaking. And then they're driving back from it, and there's a terrible tragedy that befalls Sarah. She loses some of her family members.
Oh, jeez.
And it cuts to a year later, and she's still very fragile about it, but she wants to kind of get back on the horse, so her friends drag her out to another retreat.
No! You're coming with us!
And what they do is they're gonna go spelunking. They're gonna go into this system of caves, and that's how they're gonna get their thrill. However,
so that's what they're gonna do with a woman with a fragile psyche, is drop her off a cliff a couple of times. Good job, friends.
So as they're going into the underground caves, we see that Juno, the leader of the group, has left the maps on purpose. She's left them in the car. And you come to find out that the reason is because she said that they were going to a specific system of caves, and really, you find out a little ways into the movie, she has to kind of own up to them and be like, actually, we're not in those caves at all. We're in an undiscovered system of caves. I wanted us to do this together and get out the other side so we can name them after ourselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it turns out they're not alone down there in the caves.
So when they get out, what were they going to name them? The We Hate Juno Caves? So they're not alone when they're down there, they discover.
There's some spooky things start happening down in the cave, and I don't want to give away too much more than that, but it's interesting too because there's some, you can already tell by that revelation from Miss Juno there that like there ends up being a little bit of like intergroup conflict as well as like something's down here with us,
right?
And also there's some history between the characters that's unresolved that leads to some intergroup conflict too. So it's good stuff. It's a good little survival story in a very interesting, dark, and scary place. And I would recommend it. They've done a couple sequels of it, which I think are supposed to not be as good, but I would
imagine they're not. But...
Yeah, I can't comment though because I have not seen them.
Fair enough.
This director went on to do a couple other movies that I can't comment on, but I don't think were too terribly well received, unfortunately. One of them was called Doomsday, which I only know from advertisements as being that movie that I think is about the apocalypse and has that spooky looking crazy woman like all Mad Maxed out on the cover.
Yeah, I don't know much about that movie at all, other than the poster. So The Descent, a good recommendation.
Yeah,
from
very good horror
movie.
Very good horror movie.
Fantastic. I saw one recently on Netflix that I had heard about a year or so ago, and it's called The Innkeepers, directed by a gentleman by the name of Ty West. And it's the story about this little hotel, or inn, if you will, that's like on its last week of being in business. It's closing down. So pretty much there's only two people that work in the entire hotel anymore, which is not a big property. It's just a guy and a girl that work at the front desk. And the inn is supposed to be haunted by the ghost of this woman that she was a widow, and then she died through circumstances while being at the hotel, and the owners of the hotel covered it up and like hid her body in the basement, and so I guess her spirit is restless and such. So while they're working at the hotel, they're actually staying over at the hotel, just because they're the only two people working there. So there's no point in going home. So during the evening times, they like to get out their video recording equipment and such, and they like to try and document any evidence of hauntings and such. And then, like you would expect for a movie like that, things start going wrong. What made this movie interesting and what I liked about it was actually the main character, played by an actress named Sarah Paxton. When we're first introduced to her, she's a pretty blonde lady, and we're first introduced to her, and I was watching the movie. My first thought was, wow, I don't think she's a very good actress. I don't think she has any instincts whatsoever. And then
Sarah Paxton, if you're listening to this, wait a couple seconds.
Wait a couple seconds. We're taking you through Mordor and bringing it back to the Shire, to steal a line from Patton Oswalt. But I then realized, no, I just had a completely different expectation from this character because we're used to these ladies in the horror movies. They're either the ditzy blondes or they're the very like self-assured, confident, like independent type
Virgin
women.
warrior.
Exactly.
Virgin turned warrior.
Yeah, and so I wasn't expecting this very quirky and very funny, actually, character who normally in a bigger horror movie might be part of the ensemble and then is picked off eventually. But this is the actual lead of our movie, and you don't really see that too often. And I was very surprised by that, and it really helps the movie. It makes it work because you come to know her a little bit throughout the movie, and she's just, again, she's very quirky, very awkward, not in a Zooey Deschanel, it's way too much and I want to turn it off type of way, but quirky and humorous enough to really make you kind of care about her. So when things do start to go wrong, you don't want to see anything happen to her because, this is the girl that we've been laughing with, throughout most of the movie, and she's cute and she has funny little moments. We don't want to see anything bad happen to her. So I really think that helped the movie out a lot. Also, the fact that it doesn't just rely on jump scares. I know we've said that a lot in this episode, but that is something that scary movies do use when they don't have a lot of good ideas, is they'll throw something at the camera, just to get a quick little startle out of you. But Mr. Ty West is more interested in creating an atmosphere with his scary movies. So when stuff does go wrong, it's not just stuff being thrown at the camera. No, it's very slow shots that pan over, and there's the horrifying thing. But he does something that I think more directors of horror films should do, is he'll hold on that thing for a lot longer than you might expect one to do. It's not just like a quick cut and then, gets back to the action. No, the camera stays on it for a little bit, and that really helps ingrain the image in your head. So what he's trying to do is he's not just trying to scare you while you're watching the movie or while you're in the theater. He wants to scare you when you're on your way home, and when you're back at your home and you're by yourself. He wants those images to stick with you, and I think that's very smart by him. So I really want to see some more stuff of his in the future. I watched one earlier called House of the Devil, which was pretty decent. I think Innkeepers is a little bit better, but I would definitely recommend it. It's on Netflix Instant Watch if you can find it. It's a very, very enjoyable movie.
And would you compare that, what you're talking about with staying on an image, would you compare that to like the kind of John Carpenter idea of, people say it's scary if you don't see what you should be scared of, and
yes.
He went and said, no, I'll show you something absolutely horrifying, and I'll
exactly.
stay on it the whole time.
No, that's something I love about John Carpenter remade a classic science fiction movie called The Thing, and entitled it appropriately The Thing. And it's a very good science fiction horror movie from the 80s starring Kurt Russell. And usually in these types of creature features, you don't want to show the creature until like the very end, a la Jaws and such, to kind of, again, it's that idea of what you don't see is scarier because your mind will create something. And exactly like what Nick said, he came out and he's like, no, I'm a really talented man, and I'm going to show you stuff that you would never imagine that is far scarier than you can ever think of. So I think it is sort of in that same vein where, Ty West is sort of proud of what he's done, and he's like, no, I want the audience to see this because I know I'm creating something scary for them, and I know they're going to walk out of this movie and it's going to stick with them, as opposed to just, quick cut and then, got to keep the frenetic pace going. No, I want them to see what I've created because I truly believe that it's terrifying and that it will stick with them. So I give kudos to Mr. Ty West and to Miss Sarah Paxton as well. A fine performance in that movie. Again, sorry I thought you were bad when I first started watching it, but again, that was my own fault. You did a really good job, and if you ever want to get together, I don't know, maybe hit up a Panera, just comment on this YouTube video, and we'll make it happen.
You don't like Panera bread, Greg.
What? What's wrong with Panera bread?
You don't like it.
Well, it's your fault, with the whole breadhead thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, back in the day, Nick and I were eating at Panera, and he took a piece of bread and he sort of made it into like a little puppet, with the two halves. He sort of made it like a mouth, and he created something called breadhead, which basically sounded like I am Breadhead, and he annoyed me throughout our entire lunch with Breadhead.
Ladies and gentlemen, Greg is a very disturbed man.
Okay, see, this is his whole little shtick right here. He's pretending that he never did anything like this.
He's made another aspect of his personality called Breadhead.
Dude, you created Breadhead.
He somehow thinks I'm responsible for it.
You are responsible for this. See, this is his whole little thing. He's trying to make me out to sound...
This, please just don't spur him on. Just
I don't want to be spurred on.
Let him know that there is no Breadhead.
There is no Breadhead, but you did create him at one point.
How would I create Breadhead?
You took two...
How would I create a whole person?
He's not a whole person. He's a piece of bread that talks. No, that doesn't... No, he's not real.
You see what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen?
He's not real, but you created him, though. He's not real, but you created him out of bread.
Okay,
that's
Greg.
About as much sense as I can make out of it.
Why don't you just take these pills?
No! Get away from me! Who are you? Ah! No, I'm kidding. The Breadhead scene, ladies and gentlemen.
Now he's hallucinating.
Shut up. Was there anything else you wanted to throw out there before we bring this little episode to a close?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, that's pretty much all we have to talk about this episode. Tune in next week for our very Halloween-y episode.
Which will be extra spooky.
Which will be very extra spooky. I'm going to get a slide whistle. And
if I had
think that'll...
slide whistle.
Yeah, isn't that scary?
I was thinking of
slide
those
whistles
little...
are scary.
No, they're not.
They can be. They can be totally terrifying. Exactly! I'm getting chills right now. What were you going to say?
Those little buttons that you press and they go like... They make that spooky music.
So...
That was my impression of one of those buttons that you press and they make spooky music.
So that's scarier than the slide whistle.
It's absolutely scarier than a slide whistle.
Slide whistles are terrifying, man. I hear that sound and it's like a knife through my... No, I'm kidding. Anyway, yes, definitely tune in next week for a very Halloween-y episode.
Happy October, eat all your candy corn.
Happy October, eat all your candy corn.
Makes you grow up big and strong.
Stop talking about pumpkin-flavored things. I know it's very nice, but nobody wants to hear about it. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it, but stop talking about it. It's getting annoying. And,
pumpkin-flavored everything.
No! I'm Greg McIver. I've been your host. This is Nicky Boom-Boom. He's been my co-host. And we will catch you...
You're supposed to say my name.
What?
You usually point to me and then I say my name. Nicky Boom-Boom.
Hey. I'm trying to break the mold, you know? I'm trying to go in different directions with the show, man. You're thinking two-dimensional. I'm thinking four-dimensional with this stuff.
Alright, throw a jump scare on it and then let's wrap her up.
Boo! Ha ha ha! Goodbye.